So in today's video, what I want to talk about today is the relevancy of using a CB radio on 10 meters. Is it a good idea? Is it something you should attempt? Well, maybe. So obviously some of the older CB radios had sideband in them, upper and lower sideband, just like you would expect in a good 10-meter rig. There's about a megahertz difference in frequency between 11-meter CB and 10-meter ham. So in theory, it should be simple to modify a CB radio to work on 10 meters. And actually, according to the FCC rules, it's perfectly legal for an amateur ham to take a CB radio, modify it for amateur use, as long as it's spectrally clear. So is it legal? Yes, it's perfectly legal as long as you hold an amateur radio license. Is it advised? Well, maybe. And the reason I'm going to say maybe is because most of the newer CBs would be very problematic in making them work on 10 meters. Most of the older radios, going back to late 70s, early 80s, much easier to get those to work at a higher frequency that you would need for 10 meters. And as an example, let me pop the cover on this and show you at least one aspect of that. So way back when I was really having the CB, I always liked the Cobra and Unit N radios for several reasons. I believe that this particular chassis, the 142 GTL, might be the pinnacle of CB development in the 80s. And of course, a lot of people's going to disagree with that and say that the Cobra 2000 or the Cobra 148 was superior. But for my purposes, which is working on sideband, the two radios were virtually identical. And actually the 142 was capable of more wattage. Everybody says that the 148 and the 2000 had dual conversion receive, but that was only on AM. So sideband was the same. The circuitry for sideband is almost identical. So this, to me, is the pinnacle of citizens band radios. And it's just an AM upper sideband, lower sideband radio. But what makes these radios so unique is the use of a particular PLL chip. So the MB8719 chip allowed these radios to go above channel 40 and down below channel 1 outside of the CB band just by jumping certain pins on the chip. And you can make them go way out of band. So here's the way that I do that on this radio. And this will go right up into the 10-meter ham band and operate there. When you do that, you have to retune the receive and the transmit. So you have to follow the factory tuning procedure and go through and retune both the receive and the transmit. And you also have to slightly modify the filters. So the chokes for filtering of the RF and the radio are set up for CB, and those two have to be modified slightly to get full power output. But once you do that, you'll have a radio that will work on 10 meters. So let me go ahead and put the cover back on this, and let's see if we can make some contacts.
Victor Oscar Charlie 59. Delta Bravo Charlie. W8 Victor Sugar. 24 by Zulu.
Serious pile up.
24 by Zulu, also 59, thank you.
W8 Victor Sugar.
Whiskey 8 Sugar.
Okay, Mike. K2RFO. Very good. Yeah, got that. No problem. No problem. Not bad. Conditions are okay. They're not great conditions, but they're not too. Eliminate weapons, but still cannot get the agreement. Anyway, it's a big subject. Okay, about one friend who is earlier, Mr. Kilowatt 2, Alpha Radio X-ray, Max. He came to Japan.
Chassis with
CQ, Papa Uniform 2, Papa Mike. CQ10, Papa Uniform 2, Papa Mike. CQ10, CQ1010. Here's Nadia, Texas.
Kilo Juliet 7, Uniform Quebec, India.
Uniform Quebec, India, please come.
Yes, the call sign is Kilo Juliet 7, Uniform Quebec, India. Name is Rick. I'm just outside of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Roger, Roger.
CQ10 meter band. In Manchester, Maryland. CQ10 meter band. In Manchester, Maryland. Over.
Kilo Juliet 7, Uniform Quebec, India.
Uniform Quebec. CQ7 UQ. Great, thank you. Beautiful 5-9 here in Manchester, Maryland. My name is Mark. Mike Alpha Romeo.
Roger. Quite a bit of QR Mary interfering with your signal into Las Vegas, Nevada. Name is Rick, Romeo, India, Charlie, Kilo, QSL.
Okay, Rick, very good. How's Lake Mead doing?
It came up with the summer rains quite a bit, about 20 feet, I think, but it's still way low.
Okay, well, I sure hope it gets better for you because that's really bothersome. I was up there in Las Vegas, and yeah, that's really sad to see all that. So anyway, that's great. So bet you sound good. No problem.
That's good, considering I'm just running an old converted Cobra CB radio that's putting out about 25 watts. I've got a Yaesu as well, but sometimes I like to pull this thing out and hook it up just for nostalgia.
Are you using a vertical?
4-element Yagi, Roger.
Okay, yeah, mine's 4 also. Cobra, COBRA. I'll put that down. That's cool. Wow, that's a long time ago since we used to modify the CB radios to work on here.
Roger. Yeah, I've had this thing for probably, well, let's see, since the mid-'80s. So it's something I just could never part with.
Yeah, well, it really sounds good. Does anybody tell you that? It really does sound good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I've kept it for so long. I get awesome audio reports out of this rig.
Do you ever mess around on AM? I know AM is a popular thing. I've really never done too much AM, but does it work on AM?
It'll work there, but I kind of abandoned AM in the late 80s.
Yeah, because they have a thing called sideband. That's much better.
Roger. Yeah, I went to sideband and never looked back, so.
Yeah, isn't that funny? That's the same with me. I mean, I did AM, but since I've been a sidebander, I've never looked back.
Roger. Okay, bands up and down. Let me verify your call sign before I let you.
No, it's
Okay, I got it. Thank you for the QSO. Very nice talking to you.
Yeah, you sound good, Rick, and don't change anything, and I'll keep you guys with my thoughts getting that water back. KJ7UQI, Las Vegas. I'll see you, and it was my pleasure.
Mine as well.
It was a little...
So as you can see, you can make contacts on an 11-meter rig that's been converted to 10 meters. But you'll notice there was some really, really long distance contacts, one in Australia and one in Brazil that I didn't even attempt because those guys were running 400, 600 watts. And I knew that, it would be pointless for me to attempt it with a 25 watt rig. So there are limitations to doing this, but on 10 meters, you can actually be quite successful if you have a good antenna and if you're persistent. So can you make contacts on an 11 meter converted rig? Yes, you can. And it's a good cheap place to start. However, you will have to have some knowledge of electronics to be able to go in and modify one of these radios to do that. But that's exactly what the amateur radio hobby is all about, is modifying radios, building radios. These days it seems like the only experimentation we can do is with antennas and microphones, and not too many people are going inside of their radios or building radios from scratch, which is kind of sad. But this is a good starting point for a 10 meter rig. And like I said, I like the old 8719 chassis. That particular chip was used in a variety of radios by Uniden and Cobra and many others. So that actual platform, you can find it in a variety of different manufacturers. And the older ones were able to be modified. The newer ones, I've heard you can't. So some of the newer 8719 chips, you can't get them to go out of band. They're locked. The PLL is locked. Or 40 channel CB band, you can't really make those go out of band. But the older ones, the ones made in the late 70s, early 80s, you can. And the 8719 chip isn't the only chip you can do this with. There are other ones as well. I just prefer this chassis. I owned, at the time when I was heavy into CB, I owned this radio as a base. And I also owned this radio as a mobile. And this is exactly the same chassis in a mobile. So the 140 GTL and the 142 base have the exact same circuit board. And this one's also been modified for 10 meters. So when I modify these for 10 meters, of course, you can no longer use them on CB. So after it's modified, you can no longer go down to channels 1 through 40 and transmit. You can receive, but you cannot transmit. So that's one of the problems with modifying a CB radio, is it's no longer legal to use it on the CB band. Once you take the screws out of it and start playing with a golden screwdriver, that's it, you're done. You can no longer use it on those frequencies. It's for amateur radio use only. But that's what I wanted, and that's what I ended up with. And every now and then I'll dig this out and hook it up and make a few contacts just because I've had this radio for a long time and I like it. So the main radio back there, of course, the Yaesu, gets more use, but it's just fun to pull this one out, dust it off, and use it once in a while. So there you have it. I hope that was useful information for you. And if you got an electronics bent and you like tinkering, think about it. It's pretty cool to do that. You can take these radios and modify them and use them on 10 meters. It's a very cheap starting point. Thanks for watching.